We have the great privilege and honor that Swami Kriyananda, one of the last living direct disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, will speak and share with us this evening. And before we get started, as a way of introduction, a lot of what we share through Yogananda's teachings is through the heart and through vibration. And Swamiji has been a prolific composer of music, so we'd like to start this evening by sharing one of the songs that he's composed called Life is a Dream. And then after our music, Swamiji will address us with some words on the goal of life is bliss and how we can achieve that. And then at the end of our program, we'll have another song written by Swamiji, which we'll share with you as well. So, yes, turn off your cell phone. Sure. So.
Life is a dream, time like a stream, carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere, love can befriend you today. Free from all griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay. Often on earth, things of great worth, worldly ambitions define. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend up from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh.
Very good. Okay. When I was 30 years old, I said, I bet when I'm 82, I'll be saying the wonderful thing about this path is that it gives you strength. And here I am, nearly 85, and somehow chugging away. I met my guru back in 1948, before a few of you were born. And I must say, it had been an absolutely wonderful journey. I know that some of you have come to this exposition or expo for a quick fix. I'm not going to give you a quick fix, but I do want to give you a simple one, and that's my purpose tonight. I remember I was born into the biggest business in the world, Expo or Exxon today. I grew up in that. All the influence that I had was toward money. It always amused me to see how my parents and their friends, as soon as the word money was mentioned, very serious. It meant absolutely nothing to me. I remember saying to my father when I was 16, Dad, he wanted to get me a tuxedo. I said, Dad, don't bother. I'll never wear it. In fact, I'll never earn enough money to pay income tax. And that's been true. I just didn't care. I didn't want it. But I did want truth, and I wanted it desperately. And I tried finding it through astronomy, through political systems, through everything I could think of, except God. Because my church taught me about a God I did not like. I didn't like this fellow who was vengeful and waiting for us to make a mistake so he could clap us into prison for eternity. It just didn't make sense to me. And I remember, however, reaching the point where I thought, well, everything ends in God. Without God, nothing makes sense. And I remember I was studying to be a playwright at the time. But it's not as if I had ambition to be a playwright. Yes, I had several opportunities to be successful in this world. I studied singing. My singing teacher, she was an old lady. She said, I'm only living for one thing now, and that's to see you become a great singer. I never went back to her. I'm sorry, I hated to hurt her feelings, but I didn't want to show off my voice. I wanted to sing about truth. And then I wanted to be a playwright. And quite a few people thought I would be a front-ranking playwright. And I realized one day what I wanted to be a playwright for was to share truth with people. And I didn't know truth. So why flood the world with my ignorance? And so I just left that too. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And then I found Autobiography of a Yogi. And I don't know, it completely went against everything I believed. Miracles, I had made mockery of miracles. It said so many things. I didn't know anything about Indian philosophy. It said so many things that just didn't make sense to me. But my heart was convinced. And because my heart was convinced, I followed my heart. And I took the next bus across the country. And the first words I said to Yogananda when I met him were, I want to be your disciple. I admit my intellect, I had gone by intellect, but it was totally confused. I had to sit down every 15 minutes and sort of calm my mind. But I knew this was right because my heart knew it was right. I say for the start, if you want to know truth, follow your heart. Don't follow your brain. Don't follow what makes sense to you, because your heart will guide you rightly. This is why we're living in an age of energy now. And this is why I have to say that women are going to come into the forefront in this age, because they go more by feeling. We've had enough of too much intellect. Look at the Catholic Church, they're all men. One beautiful thing about our community at Ananda is that there are just as many women as men in positions of authority, because we don't see any difference. We don't even make jokes on the subject. We're the same. Yes, we have different ideas of what's practical and so on. We are different, but vive la différence. We need that difference. We need that balance. Women call men impractical. Men call women impractical. They're both right in their own way. It's just, but the thing that I want to help you to understand is that, yes, I reached the point one day when I took a long walk out into the night, and I asked myself, if there's a God, because everything tells me I had to go through reason, that was my nature. But it led me to the point where God had to exist, but I couldn't reconcile that thought with what God really is. And I said to him, to myself, if there's a God, what must he be like? And I thought, and I realized what's making me ask this question, the fact that I'm conscious. Then he has to be consciousness. He can't be a form, he can't be a man or a policeman or a judge or anything. He has to be consciousness. If that's the case, then the more in tune I am with that consciousness, the more I will have what I want. And the more I'm out of tune with that consciousness, the more unhappy I am, and the less clear I am in my consciousness. And so I decided then, the purpose of life has to be only one, to seek God. And believe it or not, I decided that night I would seek God. At first I thought I was going crazy, because I'd never heard of anybody who sought God. I'd never heard of saints and people like that. I didn't know they existed. I thought, who ever heard of anybody seeking God? It seems like an impossibility. But I knew that's what I had to do. And when I came upon Autobiography of a Yogi, that's what changed my mind. Well, now what I'm offering you this evening is, as I say, not a quick fix, but a simple one. The more you go toward simplicity, the happier you'll be. I don't say give up things. I say give up attachment to things. Yes, you may need to have a house and a bed and a few things like that. Yes, you may. There are a lot of unnecessary necessities, but we certainly do have some necessities. And I'm not recommending poverty. I remember in India, where I've spent some years, I noticed that the people who went to the ashrams of saints were always people of middle or upper middle class. They had the conveniences of life, and they were free to be able to think about more. But when you're busy worrying about where your next meal is coming from, it's difficult to think about God. So in fact, I don't recommend giving everything up. I recommend giving up attachment to things. Simplify your lives. This is a part of what I want to say. But there's much more than that, and it gets to be fascinating. You know, I saw an advertisement for a young man, for young people, to take up the glorious career of a pharmacist. Well, of course, you and I might not think that was all that glorious, but they were showing this young man looking up like this. Where else would he look if you want to show him inspired? Everywhere in the world, there are certain things that we know are true. When you're looking up, you're feeling more inspired. When you feel downcast, you slump, you look down. Everything shows that. And this is not something the Chinese decide that, well, when I'm like this, I feel happy. It's universal. There are other things that are universal. Why is it that all over the world, when people want to show respect for somebody, they bow? Everywhere, Japan, China, Europe, America, South America, you look for it, it just won't exist. That's always what they do. When they want to show respect, they bow. Why? Okay, I'll explain something to you. And I think this will be very interesting to you as we go further into it. When the sperm and the ovum come together at the beginning, they form in the medulla oblongata, at the base of the brain. And as they form there, they form the body, they go down the spine, the energy goes to the brain and out through the nervous system, and gradually the body is formed. Now the seat of your ego is the medulla oblongata. All you need to do is think, where is your consciousness centered when you do things? When people's consciousness is strongly centered in the medulla oblongata, you have that expression, looking down your nose at people, because of the tension here. People whose energy is less strongly focused in the medulla, nevertheless, everything they do centers here. There are other things that can be considered, which simplifies everything considerably. When you feel something, where do you feel? Well, you've never heard of a lovesick swain saying, I have a broken knee. Everybody in the world says, I have a broken heart. This is the center of feeling. And when a person's emotional, he puts his hand here. It's universal. It, again, does not depend on culture, religious beliefs, on anything. It's simply the truth. Now then, emotions are disturbed feeling, and those emotions can go down. And so you have a passageway in the spine. And when the energy in the spine goes down, it leads to unhappiness. And when the energy in the spine goes up, it leads to happiness. Here's a simple technique you can practice. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a famous scripture in India. It says, think of the heart as a lotus and direct the petals of that lotus upward and toward the brain. If you do that, then you will be able to feel bliss, begin to feel bliss. Now, the center of superconsciousness is here at the point between the eyebrows. It's not really on the bone in the forehead. It's in that part of the frontal lobe of the brain. But that's why when people are inspired, they automatically look up. Gee, I feel wonderful. They never say, I feel wonderful. It's universal. Now then, if you could concentrate here at the point between the eyebrows and direct your energy from that point forward to the point between the eyebrows, then you would change your center of consciousness. A master or an enlightened person feels his consciousness altogether centered here. And this is something I can say from my own experience. This is where my own consciousness is more centered. I don't say completely, but it's getting there. And the more it's there, the more I say, Viva! Very good. Because you feel happiness that way. You feel bliss. Sometimes that bliss becomes so intense, you can hardly control it. But this is what people are really looking for. What is the goal of life? Well, no, it's not to become a pharmacist. It's not, why would you want to be a pharmacist? Because it pays well. All right, so is money your goal? People who have too much money are unhappy. What was the name of that man? Richest man in the world, Howard Hughes. He was asked a week before he died, are you happy? No, I can't say I'm happy. Well, the tone of voice said it for him. You don't find happiness in money. You don't find happiness in sex. Look, I mean, many people think they will. And yet, my God, look at all the unhappy marriages. You get many a marriage is sort of a marriage really between a nice shade of lipstick and a pretty bow tie. And people, my guru used to say, so they get married and live happily ever after with rolling pins and black eyes. Sex is not the answer. You need something more. The more you can bring your energy up, the more, really, I'm here to say it. I know it's true. I have lived it, and I know this is where your happiness lies. So it isn't in things, it isn't in places, it isn't in travel. I've done it all. And I haven't found it in those things. But when I found this energy moving to here, you know what you feel among everything else? Well, I'll tell you about a dream that I had. It was in Florence, in Italy, just a couple of years ago. And it was interesting because the day before, I had a meeting with our distributors. And they were very sympathetic with us and so on. But the head of the company said to me to start out with, He said, well, I have to tell you from the beginning, I'm not religious. I said, neither am I. I may be spiritual, but I'm not religious. I can't say I'm anti-religion, but I'm teetering on the edge. But that night I dreamed of many, many people, maybe hundreds. And some of them were very materialistic, some of them somebody wanted nothing but money. Some of them were even mafioso types. And others were normal human beings. But I found, as in my dream, the one thing everybody wanted was bliss. You know, if you think about it, you'll find that this is the one thought in everybody's mind. Not bliss, because they don't know that bliss exists, but happiness. Everybody in the world is seeking to avoid pain and to find happiness. Isn't that true? It's certainly true. And if they could understand more deeply, they'd know that that happiness is only a masquerade for bliss. But the worst mafioso, he may think he'll find what he wants through revenge, through murder, through whatever it is. What he really wants is happiness. What I found from that dream was that it gave me a cause to really love everybody. Because they all want that bliss that they just don't know what they want, but that's what they really want. And why do they love bliss? You know, it's a very interesting thing. Buddha came onto the scene in India many years ago, and his purpose in life was to help people to understand that they had to make an effort. It wasn't enough to practice what they call Nidya Karma Kanda, or just finding good karma, good actions by propitiating the gods and so on. Yes, you can get something through that. It's not enough. He said, you have to make the effort. I remember one disciple of Yogananda's, he was scolding him for a quality he needed to develop. And the disciple said, well, sir, I know I want to change, but how can I change without your blessings? And Yogananda said, my blessings are there already. God's blessings are there. It's your blessings that are lacking. And this is the truth. We've got to do what we can. It's sort of, yes, everything goes by grace, but that grace is like sunlight pouring on the side of a window. And if the curtains of your room are closed, then you won't be able to receive that sunlight. You've got to make the effort to open yourself to that truth. That's what yoga is all about. That's what all spiritual practice should be all about. Sometimes they do other things altogether, not understanding what they're doing. But that's really what it's all about. Now, as we open ourselves to this, the more we find that there is this higher consciousness that I understood about, vaguely at least, back when I was 21. But we've got to overcome those resistances in ourselves. Now, what are they? Basically, it's all ego-oriented. I want to be more important. I want to be one up over that person. I want money for myself. I want to take, I don't want to give. And everything, if you will think in terms of the purpose of life being to overcome your ego, then you will think in terms of wanting to give more, not being important, not caring what other people think of you. If people insult you, try sincerely thanking them. I mean that. It may sound ridiculous, but after all, they're helping you to overcome your ego. Thank you very much. It's when people try to beat you down, don't be attached. I remember when I was 13, I was born in Romania. My parents were American, so I really don't, I'm neither fish nor fowl. But anyway, when we came to this country, I was 13, and I went to school there. And I had a very English accent at the time. And this boy who was 15 decided he didn't like me. I was an insult to the flag. And so I weighed 107 pounds. He weighed 230 pounds. A subtle difference. And he decided he was going to beat me up. Well, he came into my room and beat me up. There was nothing I could do. I didn't worry about it particularly. I just let him beat me up and tried to put the pieces together and go on. But I never felt resentful of him. In fact, I took it quite calmly, and I beat him. Yes, he beat my body, but I beat his spirit. From then on, he never wanted to come near me, because he didn't understand how I could possibly react in that way. But if you can learn not to react to things, be non-attached, be non-reactive, don't care what people think of you. Be much more concerned with what you think of them. Don't wait for other people. One time, many years ago, I went to Strasburg, Pennsylvania, which is really almost a suburb of New York City. And my hostess had asked me to sing some of my songs for them. And so I sang one song, and I thought, my goodness, if they don't like it, that's all right by me. But yet I had been asked by my hostess to sing my song. And so, having put it in the plural, I thought, well, let me at least sing one more. So I sang one more, same reaction. Then I suggest we all go to the buffet table, stampede. Well, okay. I mean, if people don't like my songs, fine. You can't expect everybody to like everything. But the next day, and this is the real payoff, I was with the main person of that group. He was taking me somewhere. And I just sort of casually asked him, how do you like my music? It's all right, I guess. In fact, I have a cassette of it, and I play it every day on my way to work. I couldn't believe my ears. I mean, he obviously loved it, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. Listen, when you like something, then be the first. Don't worry about what other people will think of you. Just say I like it. Often in the streets, if I see somebody, male or female, of course I'm at an age where it's safer to compliment women, but I'll thank them if I see them wearing something nice, some nice color or something. I think we should show appreciation for one another. It's our egos that prevent us. We're afraid of what others will think of us. Don't worry about your ego. The more you can overcome that ego, the closer you will be to bliss. And that bliss is what you really want. It will never come to you as an ego thing. It'll never come to you by being the president. Remember this. It's a very simple thing to remember. Whatever you try to do in life, remember, what are you really looking for? Well, happiness, aren't you? If happiness is what you're really looking for, then why not look for that first? I read some book. I didn't read the book. I was told about it. That was enough for me. But this man was giving advice on how to be a good manager. He said, slam the door occasionally, shout occasionally, slam your book on the floor, on the desk. I thought, what a childish, irresponsible, uncontrolled. I've started 8 communities in this world. I say this world because one is in Italy, 2 are in India, several are in America. I'm trying to start one in Los Angeles. I think that These are a wonderful alternative for the rat race people get involved in. And I started the first one 43 years ago. So I can say that we've proved ourselves. But in these communities, you find that people don't have that kind of one-upmanship. I never will make a person a leader if he wants to be a leader. I'll never put him in a position of teaching others if he wants to teach others. I don't mean that I drag them kicking and screaming up onto the podium to talk. That's not my meaning. But people who want to blast, no, I don't want them. But I found that this community is a place where everybody supports everybody else, where you never find arguments, where you find harmony and support, and above all, happiness. Well, anything that you're doing, ask yourself, okay, is it really true that I want to get to the top, or am I looking for happiness? Always remember, happiness should be your priority in life. You should look for happiness in anything that you do before the thing itself. Now, I don't know how much time I have, but I know I'm supposed to give you time to ask questions. So let's try that first. I'll give you time to ask questions.
Yeah, until 9:30, Swamiji.
What?
9:30.
And it's 9:35. Oh, I have till 9:30?
I think so. Yes.
Oh, well, all right. So let me ask you some questions. No. When I met Yogananda, it was, I had never in my life met somebody so absolutely wise. And yet I would look into his eyes, and there was no thought, I am wise. There was no thought, I. Being near him, you know, people emanate an aura. His aura was intense. And I could feel so much love and so much bliss emanating from him. I used to be very short-sighted before I got laser surgery. And I couldn't see anybody's expression from here to there. And I left the room one time and looked back to say goodbye, and he looked at me. I felt these waves of love. It just brought tears to my eyes. Isn't that what life is really all about? What is the point of living, sweating, paying your taxes, getting everything? Finally, you reach old age. I mean, I think at the age of 85, I'm doing relatively well. And usually people are sort of wrecks. I was amazed the other day. It was on Christmas. My voice suddenly became deep. I mean, it's not decent. People who are old are supposed to have creaky voices. And instead, I hit one note below the lowest note on the piano. Now, I don't know how, but I did. And my voice is also resonant. So I think it's never been so good in my life. How come? And I feel so blissful all the time because I don't feel that I exist. It's an absolutely wonderful experience. Of course I exist enough to get the fork into my mouth. But what I mean by that is I just don't matter. If you want to insult me, fine. If you want to shoot me, fine. Really. Because there's only one thing that really matters, his bliss. You know when you die, and that's the one thing I can promise you, you will die. Don't be afraid of it. Most people are afraid of death. You can't lose consciousness. all you do is lose your overcoat. Yes, you lose your body, but yourself, you don't lose that self. When you go beyond this world, you find a much better world. Well, the truth of it is this. Whatever emotions you have when you shed the frame of the body, when you shed the frame of the body, then those emotions become stronger. So if you were filled with hatred and anger and those things, then those will be much stronger in that stage than here. But most people are fairly decent people. Basically, I think everybody, not just the people in this room who obviously wouldn't be at this talk if they weren't seeking something better, but even those people who are trying to find revenge and everything, basically everybody is good. Everybody is God. I told you, I began to talk to you about Buddha because he talked about doing it all yourself, doing the effort yourself. His followers began to think he was an atheist. He was no atheist. He was a master. But then, because atheism was spreading through India, then Shankaracharya was born. God always answers according to the needs of mankind. People always argue that our guru is right because he says so and so. They're all the same. They're all the same. But they are teaching according to the needs of the times. And so Shankaracharya said, no, there is a God. But it's true, he's not Vishnu and Shiva and Parvati and Saraswati and all those gods. He is that infinite bliss. And he gave this definition, Satchidananda, which normally in books you will find translated without any color at all, saying that existence, consciousness, bliss. What does that mean? But Yogananda translated it, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. And that expression, ever new, was one he added. And how absolutely beautiful that ever new is, what it means. As Yogananda said, when you attain that bliss, it's always changing, it's always new. And every human being who finds that bliss will find the same bliss, but in his particular way. It's absolutely thrilling to realize that each one of us is finding a different path to that one bliss. I can't tell you how that thrills me. That every moment of that bliss, when you find it, will be thrilling and beautiful and different, constantly new, constantly fresh. Well, the goal of life is that. You were born. Why don't you come in and sit down? He's an old friend of mine, so I can tell him this. That the Shankaracharya, however, every one of them is devotional. But he didn't sound devotional because he said, like our first song this evening, life is a dream. He said, this is all God's dream. And in fact, I have started a new renunciate order to which everybody is invited. They don't have to be members of Ananda or disciples of Yogananda or anything. But if they feel that they want God first in their lives, then we invite you to join us. The purpose of this particular approach is that in the days of Shankaracharya, it was very difficult to say that the ego is non-existent. He lived in a darker age, and the ego you couldn't prove that it was not. Now, we know that matter is energy. We know that matter doesn't exist except as energy. And so we've come to realize that also the ego it's possible at least to see it just as a wave on the bosom of the ocean. Now that is the purpose of life, and it's what Shankaracharya wanted to teach when he founded the Swami order, or I should say reorganized the Swami order. I've created this new order that will teach that does teach people to embrace joy, and that the purpose of renunciation in everything is get rid of the ego. So there are many techniques that you can follow to get rid of the ego. You can, anytime, as I said before, if somebody insults you, thank you. Say thank you. If somebody does something that you don't want, say in your mind, let it be. I've made it a practice for years, mentally at night, to create a bonfire. And into that bonfire I throw every attachment, every desire, and then I feel completely free. You won't feel free if you get what you want. You'll be free if you give up what you want. Real freedom comes from non-attachment to the world. So when you go into your inner self, try bringing the energy up the spine. This is, in fact, you've all probably heard the word Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the yoga taught by Yogananda and by Lahiri Mahasaya, originally in Benares. This Kriya Yoga basically brings the energy into the spine, brings it up the spine so that you can focus it here at the point between the eyebrows. Feel superconsciousness there. The more you can put your mind here. For example, many years ago, the owner of East West Bookstore in Menlo Park asked me if I wanted to buy her store. She said, I'm becoming old now and I'd like to retire, and you're someone to whom I would like to sell this. She knew I was a part of Ananda community. I didn't know. I wasn't going to leave it on the level of opinion, but I put my mind here at the point between the eyebrows very strongly. I said, what shall I do? And I felt, yes. You know, here's the trick. Your broadcasting station is here. Your receiving station is in the heart. And by sending out that thought, I felt in the heart, and the heart said, yes, do. So I said, all right, yes, we will. In 1 second. Well, maybe 5. And we didn't have any money. It's not as if I had a huge bank account and therefore out of this plenitude I was offering that money. But I felt it was right. And a few days later, somebody who didn't know about my agreement sent us $37,000. Somebody else gave us $10,000. We needed $45,000 to put down on the down payment for this store, and it came. But again and again in my life, I have seen this kind of thing happen. And I have seen that when you have an intimate relationship with God, everybody can have it because we're all His children. I think of God as my Divine Mother. Well, I felt that my Divine Mother had directed me to return to India after many years' absence. And I had the money to go. I had enough to stay there for 2 months and then come back. But I drove into San Francisco 2 weeks before I was to leave, and my car threw a rod. And I realized I really had to get rid of this car and get another one. So I tried to ask God for advice. What should I do? I asked my Divine Mother. And I didn't have a church to go to. I didn't have a quiet place I could go to. And I had restaurants, but that wasn't quite the thing. Anyway, at the end of the day, I finally said, well, Divine Mother, I've had no guidance from you, but my common sense tells me that I have to, when I come back from India, I will need a car. I live up there in the mountains, miles from it, you might say, civilization, and I need a car. So I'm going to get it, and you'll have to reimburse me. You may not call that right, proper, humble devotion, but that's how I prayed to her. Anyway, I put $1,100 down to buy a decent used car on Friday night. Monday morning, the next Monday morning, I got a letter in the mail from somebody I didn't know. It contained a check for $1,000, and the enclosed letter said, use this as Divine Mother wants you to. Well, I ask you this. How many people in America think of God as the Divine Mother? How many people in America would think that somebody else that they knew thought of God as the Divine Mother? This man didn't know me. I didn't know him. He'd just come out of the army and he felt like doing something good, and so he did this. But absolutely incredible. I have seen again and again that when I had faith, everything worked out. And to have faith is not, yeah, I believe in you. No, it means having love. It means thinking of God as really right there. But one time, this is another story I've always loved to tell. There was an Indian who was in Davis, UC Davis, and he was a friend of mine. Then he went back to India, and I didn't know where his address was, and I felt badly because I wanted to see him when I went to India. So I went from Delhi to Calcutta. He lived in Bhubaneswar, which is south of Calcutta, some distance away. And I said, what a pity that I have come all the way to Calcutta, and I have no way of knowing where he is, Divine Mother. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it. And I arrived at the airport, and my friends who were supposed to meet me didn't meet me. They were held up by traffic. Well, you know what usually happens when you get some sort of a contretemps like that. You sort of rush to the nearest phone. Well, I didn't do that. I just stood there for a moment. I said, well, Divine Mother, what have you got in mind? And all of a sudden, just within maybe 2 seconds, somebody stopped in front of me. He said, what is your good name? And I told him. This is the expression in India. They say, what is your good name? Don't know what the bad name is, but anyway. And anyway, I told him. He said, oh, I thought you must be he. I've seen your photographs in this photograph album of a friend of mine. My friend that I'd been seeking was a Dr. Mishra. He said, a Dr. Mishra. I said, well, I've been trying to meet Dr. Mishra myself, and I don't know where he lives. He said, oh, that's all right. I've just come to Calcutta to see him. He's in Calcutta right now, and I can take you right to him. So I spent the night there. But again and again, you will see, if you will just put your hands in God's and let him take over a little bit. Have some faith. You know, I had another very, very trivial, and for that reason, the more beautiful. I mean, if God wants you to do work for him and saves your life, okay, it's sort of expected. But for something this trivial, you don't expect it. Well, anyway, my parents lived in France for a while. Dad being an oil geologist, he was in Romania, he was in Venezuela, Egypt, France. He found oil in France and received the Legion of Honor and stuff. Anyway, I kept thinking, well, I'd gone to school in Switzerland, and I the one thing I loved there was Swiss chocolate. And so I kept thinking, I ought to ask them to send me some Swiss chocolate. And I kept forgetting. It was really a very trivial desire. But one year, they were there 7 years, so one of those 7 years, I remember I said to Divine Mother, well, it's a pity I didn't ask for it because my birthday is next week, and it would have been a nice birthday present, just like that. And the day before my birthday, a woman in the congregation in Hollywood sent me a box of chocolates. She said, I don't know if you like chocolates, but I was passing a shop and I saw these Swiss chocolates, and I felt a desire to send them to you. She didn't know it was my birthday, and she didn't know that I liked Swiss chocolate. But really, again and again, I have seen in my life that God does take care of you, even in tiny things. I'm no special person. I'm just a sort of a dud, I would say. But God will take care of you if you have faith in Him. If there's one thing I want to plead with you, don't think only in terms of what you are doing, like Buddha, which is necessary in his lifetime, but think that really God is there. His grace is there. What the Christian churches teach about grace is true. You must have grace. You can't find God without Him. Yoga won't give it to you. What yoga does, I told you, I think before, it's like grace is like sunlight on a building. If you open up the curtains, then the sun can come in. Yoga's purpose is only to open up those curtains, to bring this energy up the spine so that you can offer yourself to God. If you want to offer yourself to God and don't know how, it's much more difficult. So this teaching is very simple, but absolutely life-transforming. Yes, it'll take you a whole lifetime. I won't mince words. You won't get, it's not for 90-day wonders. But if you do it, I can say at the end, I've been on this path now for 63 years, and it's well worth it. So let me ask you if you have any questions. Yes. Mind you, I'm deaf as a post, so come up here. Okay, go ahead.
Me? All
Yeah.
right. You may have actually answered it, but I didn't hear it. Why do people bow, the universal bow?
Why do people
Because they relax the tension in the medulla.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me that. Because I made the point and then I didn't make the point. Oh, well. The lot of a speaker's life is not a happy one. Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for sharing so much wisdom with us.
Yes.
And because you did get a chance to actually spend time with Yogananda, the person, the being. I'm sure many of us have read his words and he's our master. But what was he like as a person?
As a person, first of all, I have to say, he was the most perfect human being I have ever met. It was not that he was like one of those sages, sort of above being human. He was very human. He had an absolutely wonderful sense of humor. I remember some of the jokes he used to tell. One of them was, your teeth are like stars. They come out at night. But he would tell that and he'd just roar with laughter. He talked about this Irishman, Scotchman, and Englishman who were drinking whiskey, and a fly fell into each of their glasses. And the Irishman sort of sloshed his glass, and half the whiskey went out, and the fly went with it. The Englishman flicked the fly out. the Scotchman squeezed the fly. And I still remember the utter delight with which he spoke that word, squeezed. But he was also, he wasn't humble in the sense that you think of. He wasn't self-deprecating. He was non-existent. You'd look into his eyes and you'd see there was no ego there. He was very respectful of everybody. You'd think anybody with that much wisdom would sort of look down on people. But whatever people's level of ignorance was, he respected them for who they were. And he tried to help them from that point. There was one man who was arguing with him. He was a Christian fundamentalist. So finally, Master said, how do you suppose that in the Garden of Eden, the serpent spoke to Eve? And the man said, in those days, serpents could speak. Master then just took his hat off, and they wore hats in those days. He said, I bow to the colossal temple of ignorance I behold before me. But he was so kind, and he always considered other people. If somebody didn't have a seat, he'd look around to find one for him. And yes, I spent a lot of time with him. I wrote probably more. He asked me to write down his words, and I've written down, I'm the only person who's written about him. It's true that Durga Mata wrote a little bit about her own experiences. Kamala Silva the same. But I'm the only one who's really written about his sayings, in the conversations with Yogananda, in the essence of self-realization, in my book, The New Path. I had the opportunity to be with him in so many different situations, and he answered many, many questions. I remember he was saying to me that many of these disciples will be saved in this life. And then Mrs. Royston was an old woman who was working out there, very sweet lady. And he said, even she, then he gave sort of an impish smile, and he said, you know, when she came, she was even uglier than she is today. But he was really delightfully informal, and he had this absolute love. You couldn't help feeling love from him. You just wanted to be around him all the time. He was not ever authoritative, I know, you don't know kind of thing. He offered his truths. He shared them, he didn't teach. Okay, you had one.
Yes, I'm an African. I have read most of what I could find about Kriyananda, but I haven't come across any statement he made about Africa.
Do you?
I'm an African, and I've read...
You know, you look African. It's amazing. No, I mean by that, there are many Americans who are black, but you look as if you were from Africa. Very nice. Okay.
He hasn't come across any statements that Yogananda said about Africa, directly about Africa.
Trying to remember. I know that he mentioned that somebody said to him that white people who talk against blacks will probably be born black in their next lives. And he laughed. He said that's certainly true. I don't remember him saying about countries even. I remember him saying about Britain. He said, England is finished. And I was surprised. And I said, you mean, he said, finished, finished. So that was a strong statement. My own thought about Africa is the same thought as about Egypt. I think that in the past descending yuga, you see, we have ascending yugas when people become more and more conscious, then descending when they become less and less conscious. And I strongly suspect that Africa and Egypt both fell into black magic. And because of that black magic, they have had to go through much darkness. I believe that they will come up now. I believe that they've finished that karma and that the black people will become prominent among human beings now. Your face shows that to me because it shows a refinement. So, what did he say about other countries, now that I'm mentioning it? He was very much against communism. He said this is a satanic religion. And what about the Second World War? He said I put my thought in the mind of Hitler to divide his front. So Germany invaded Russia as well as England. As a result, they fell. They would have been beaten. They would have beaten us otherwise. He said America has good karma, and America will come out on top no matter what. The world is due to suffer very much, and in the not too distant future, the depression will hit the whole world. It will be much worse than people imagine right now. It will lead to war. There will be atomic bombs. It will lead, he said one time in church, you don't know what a terrible cataclysm is coming. And I don't know what that means, but it seems like something not man-made, something cosmic. It may have to do with the shifting of the poles. You know, the polar shift, the magnetic shift, at present is about 40 miles a year. It could become 400. That could be part of it. I don't know. Anyway, he said that after this particular cleansing period, we will have a period of great prosperity and happiness. And there won't be another war for 300 years. And I think that at that time, I think Africa will come up. I really do. I think it's turn, you might say. Every country has its own turn. England has had it's been too selfish. It's taken from other countries and not given back. I remember I have given Kriya Yoga initiation in many countries. When I gave it in London, we all went for dinner afterwards, 22 people plus me. And I offered to pay for the bill. They allowed me to. That's hard to believe. But only in England. So, any other? Yes.
I have a question about cultivating a meditation practice, something that I strive to do, and I struggle a little bit to get there every day and quieting my mind. I wonder if you have some guidance.
Question about cultivating a meditation practice and being regular.
What you need to do is cultivate rather a meditation attitude. And if you feel more that you're inwardly communing with God all the time, you'll automatically want to have the practice. But okay, I'll bargain with you. If you will do it 5 minutes a day, better still, half an hour. Better still, 1 hour. But, you know, it's like, I can also put it like this, that you have set aside a certain amount of time every day to brush your teeth. So think of this as a spiritual hygiene. Okay? Yes.
I thought I'd heard you say earlier about getting rid of the ego or such words. I'm not exactly sure And I think that's been an ongoing struggle for me as I'm, you know, in my spiritual path, befriending the ego, just using it like a vehicle, and then stepping aside, meditating, dancing, doing joyful things, but just allowing the ego to be and have its place, and not try to fight it or get rid of it.
Well, I think that's a good thing to do, among other things. You're going to work with ego anyway. Mind you, when I say ego, I don't mean pride. I mean the consciousness that I am doing it. That we do have to overcome in time. And it doesn't mean that you don't do anything. I say, all right, I've written 140 books. I've written over 400 pieces of music. I've started 8 communities. I've taken 15,000 color slides. I've done a few things in my life. At least it's kept me off the streets. But I have to say that the secret to doing them has been not to do them. In other words, I feel that he's doing it through me. And the more you feel him dancing through you, not I'm dancing, but he is dancing, the more you can have that. Remember, ego is not pride, it's self-awareness. We have to overcome that thought and realize that he is the one reality. He dreamed us all into existence. We are a part of him. We're a part of his bliss. And we see our bodies, they look different, and so I'm different from you, but I'm not really. We're basically the same spirit. So do keep that thought in mind, that he is doing everything that you do. I remember one time, this was back in Hollywood Church, and some lady complimented me on something I had said, my speech, in other words, my sermon. And I said, God is the doer. She said, oh, really? As if I knew it was good. I didn't know it was that good. That's not what I meant. I meant that, I don't mean that because God does it through you, he does it superbly. But he's the power behind everything. And the more you let him be that power, the more free you will feel in yourself. Any other? Yes.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question that I hope is appropriate. Do you think Yogananda has been or will be reincarnated?
He said he would. He said he'd come back in 200 years. I emphasize that because some people claim to be his reincarnation. He said it would be, I heard him say it with my own ears, it would be in 200 years. Now, let's ask this question. How do some people who are at his level come back and most not? When you attain the state of freedom in God, the state of union with God, you still have many incarnations of karma to work out. That state is known as Jivan Mukta. A Jivan Mukta has past incarnations to work out, but he's still one with God, so you can't really put him below anybody. He's really one with the one only reality there is, but he has to still work on whoever he was in past lives. He has to release those lives into the infinite. So then when they finally released all those lives, now mind you, that is no small task, because you've lived in this world for maybe as long as billions of years. I don't want to frighten you, but it takes a long time. I asked Master, was I your disciple? Have I been your disciple for thousands of years? He said, it's been a long time, that's all I'll say. Well, anyway, when they achieve final freedom, then they have no more karma, they merge into God. Well, you can imagine at that point, most people say, well, thank God. And as far as they're concerned, that's that. But there are very few who say that I want to help other people. And that one desire, which is a desireless desire, is what brings them back. Those people are the avatars. An avatar is a fully liberated being who comes back to this plane in order to save other people. Now, one who has attained Jivan Mukta can free many people, but an avatar can free any number. There aren't many such avatars. Buddha was one, Jesus was one, Yogananda was one. Yogananda has been coming back again and again to help people, but he wrote in a poem, he said, I will come back, if need be 1 trillion times, as long as one brother is still weeping by the wayside. An incredible statement, but that is what freedom is all about. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
This is a very general question, but it does have to do with a specific, I guess, very specific question that I've had for myself in the last 5 to 6 years. How do you choose if you're staring at 2 paths of what you think are happiness? Do I go this way? Do I go that way?
How do you choose if you're staring at 2 different paths? Do I go this way or that way?
Correct.
Are you talking of spiritual paths or worldly paths? Spiritual paths.
Both. To me, they seem, yeah. Like
Well, many people need to walk the counter before they decide. I didn't have to. Somehow I found my own right away, and I never was really interested in studying other ways. I'm much more ignorant than many of you when it comes to other paths because I simply haven't bothered to study them. Forgive my ignorance, but there it is. What you need to do in that case is follow one way at a time. One way and see what it does for you. Is it giving you what you want? Then try the other. One will satisfy you. That doesn't mean there's only one path. There are many paths to God, and valid paths. But each one of us has his own karma, and each one will be drawn to a particular way. You have to feel which one resonates with you, and that's a choice really only you can make. Okay? Mind you, another thing I want to say is that I'm not interested in converting anybody except to his own higher self. So I'm not trying to indoctrinate anybody, but I'm giving you the truth as I know it. Yeah? Yes.
So I heard you say earlier that when you go to bed at night, you let things be, and you picture a bonfire, and you throw your desires into a bonfire. Is that right?
She started to say before that at night you picture a bonfire and
Yes, yes.
And then other people are telling us, to manifest what you want and to put the vibrations into place. You need to visualize everything you want.
Other people are telling us to visualize if you want to manifest something, to see it so that we can realize it.
Well, if you go that way,
they seem different, she said.
If you go that way, that's fine, but it'll take forever. I mean, let's face it, desires don't cease. Any other?
One in the back, Swamiji.
Yes.
Do you think people incarnate because they have a divine purpose here? And secondly,
Do you think people incarnate because they have a divine purpose?
Here?
And
that's why we're really here. And secondly, since they always say this is delusional and this is a dream and all that, well, can't we have a better dream here?
And secondly, since this is delusional and we're in a dream here, can't we have a better dream?
I'm doing my best to help you to have a better dream. But the truth is that you come back because desires bring you back. In the astral world, they don't have cars. If you like cars, you'll have to come back here. They don't have cigarettes. If you like cigarettes, you'll have to come back here. So it's desire that directs energy. And that is really, you can call it a divine purpose, but honestly, look at the people in the streets. Do they all come with some divine purpose? I'd say that our one divine purpose, and it's true for every human being, is to discover that behind all the things we want, there is that bliss of God. And that's what we're looking for. And I wouldn't cover it in roseate colors, because it's a simple fact. You won't be happy until you've sought your own bliss. There's a lot of misery in this world, and I'd rather not be a part of it. I'd rather help wade in if I have to help people out of the muck, but not call the muck itself divine. Okay? So, let's see, we have time for about one question.
One more question.
Yes. Yes.
It sounds like
stand up, please.
It sounds like there are different ways to, so there's meditation, and there's also this sense of humor and this day-to-day life. And I'm wondering, with meditation, how much growth and enlightenment or self-awareness came through meditation, and how much just through being observant of your ego in day-to-day life and your interactions with other people?
Help me.
So she said...
I'm sorry, I'm deaf as a post.
The first part, she said there's your meditation, then there's the other side of it. You have the sense of humor, and you're going through your day-to-day life. How much is it? Help me with this, the second part.
Is it, if we want fast growth, is it more important to meditate more or to raise awareness in our interactions with other people?
If we want fast growth, is it important to meditate more or cultivate self-awareness with our interactions with others?
Mind you, you're not somebody who can go off to a cave and spend her whole life just meditating. There are some people like that. Most of us need the middle path. We need to know how to act rightly. Krishna says, Nishkam karma, action without desire for the fruits. That's the most important thing. Learn how to do what you have to do, but not desire the fruits. But learn how to interact with others, kindly, not unkindly. We have to do all the normal human things and do them in a divine way. And I think we need to learn these things. It's, what was the next question?
The first part was, do we need to meditate more, or do we
yes,
need to
it's
work on
good to meditate. But I think action, right action, is very important. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's get them up here to sing.
Okay.
You're going to be stuck with having me sing.
Swamiji, do you want some water?
Yeah. Mind you, this song I wrote as a joke. And I'm saying this because I've always felt that God is the doer. But this is one case where God was enough the doer to go against my wishes. I wanted to write a humorous song, and instead it came out quite seriously. So it's a very good example from that point of view. Okay, let's have it. Peace gave us the mountains, peace gave us the sky. Nightly when starlight enfolds us, peace is its lullaby. Amen. Peace gave us the morning. Peace gave us the sun. Bird songs that call us to welcome day and fresh labors begun. Amen. Amen. Peace gave us the seasons. Peace gave us the rain. Cool clouds that gather to bless us. Mist hands that soothe away pain. Amen. Amen. Peace gave us our heart's love. Peace gave us our smiles. Raise up thy presence within us. Light that all strife reconciles. Amen. Well done. Okay. I want to say one more thing before I leave. I was talking about countries, and I remembered something just now that Master said that's worth sharing. He said Europe would be devastated, Russia would be annihilated. Interesting predictions. And he may have made more, but I don't remember them. Anyway, thank you for coming. I've had a great